wanted human beings.
This killer has baffled the police, and nobody can solve his cryptic code.
The Zodiac Killer, America's most infamous unidentified serial killer.
Alright, hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today we are going to be talking about the one and the only Zodiac Killer. Once again, this was a case recommended by you guys, so I did do a lot of studying on this case. There is a lot that we have to get into. It's going to be a longer video today, of course, because Zodiac Killer, since it is, an unsolved case, there is a lot that we have to break down. So, without further ado, let's get into the story. The story of the Zodiac Killer starts in Vallejo, California on December 20th, 1969, where 17-year-old David Farron Day and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen were shot and killed in a parked car that was parked along Lake Herman Road. Betty's body was actually found 30 feet away from the car, and David's body was found in the car when police arrived to the scene. When police arrived to the scene, David was actually still alive, but he was barely hanging on to life when they found him. David unfortunately ended up dying on the way to the hospital. These murders took place in the 60s, where acts of violence or acts of, anything regarding murder, gun violence, anything like that were actually very uncommon back then, because there was not really a lot of guns that could be sold back then, and there really wasn't a lot of violence back then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s like you would kind of hear about nowadays. So a murder like this was kind of shook the world a little bit, because it was very, very, very uncommon for it to happen. It was pretty clear that someone had hurt Betty and David, because their wounds were definitely not self-inflicted, and it was pretty obvious that a third party had hurt both David and Betty. Of course, the third party subject fled from the scene before cops arrived, and crazy enough, there was actually no evidence on the scene to link them with a suspect or a murderer. The case ended up going cold, and little did the police know this was only the beginning of a never-ending list of the Zodiac Killer's killings. 6 months later, in July of 1969, it was very common back then, even to this day, that couples or teenagers just hanging out usually will hang out in a parked car, just park a car, hang out, and do whatever teenagers would like to do in the car, which could be numbers of things, whatever you want to put into your imagination. Just kind of picture that for this next scene slash murder scene that I'm going to tell you guys. Darlene Farron and Mcgill were actually two teenagers hanging out in a parked car on July 4th of 1969. They were actually in a parked car near Blue Rock Springs Park. They both were just sitting in the car chilling, just talking, when an unknown person came up behind them in the car and ended up shooting both of them. The difference of the Zodiac Killer and a lot of, well-known serial killers today, like Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy, is that those people, they had motives to, their killings, but the Zodiac Killer doesn't really have a motive. He just honestly does it because he enjoys it. He doesn't have a reason to do it. He just enjoys killing people, which is really odd, because serial killers usually have motives or weird fetishes against their victims, but the Zodiac Killer is a really different case of a serial killer that we actually have to this day, to be honest with you. And it's kind of crazy that the Zodiac Killer is still a very unknown case. But yeah, back to the crime scene. Darlene and Mcgill both were still alive when police arrived to the scene, but sadly Mcgill ended up being the only one surviving, and actually gave police a description of the Zodiac Killer, which I will give you guys. He said he was a white man around 26 to 30 years old, around 5'8", and at least 200 pounds. Mcgill also said the killer had light brown curly hair. The killer kind of had a large looking face to Mcgill. So somebody actually called the police station claiming to be the killer of David and Betty, giving descriptions of the killings that of course only the killer would know. So they actually called the police station within an hour after Mcgill and Darlene were shot. August 1st of 1963, 3 San Francisco newspapers all received identical letters from the person claiming to be the Zodiac Killer, and these 3 letters all had very detailed evidence that made it pretty clear and obvious that these letters came from the one and the only Zodiac Killer. Letters had evidence of all the murders and only details that the killer would know, and actually had a symbol that is now known as the Zodiac Symbol, which is it'll be on the screen. It is a circle with a cross in it, which is known as the Zodiac Killer symbol. Also included in these 3 letters were 3 separate codes. He was kind of like a person that was all about playing games with the police. So he was like, if you can figure out these codes, then you can figure out who I am and my identity. August 4th, another letter was actually received, and this letter actually says, I'll also put the letter on the screen so you guys can read along with me. It says, this is the Zodiac Killer speaking in answer to your asking for more details about the good times I had in Vallejo. I shall be very happy to supply more material. By the way, are the police having a good time with the code? Tell them to cheer up. What they do when they do crack it, they will have me. So it's basically saying like, hey, please have a good time cracking that, because once you do, you know, you will be able to have me, but until then, you snooze, you lose kind of deal is what the Zodiac Killer was doing. On August 8th, the one of the codes was actually cracked by just a random couple in Selena, California. I know I sound like I'm saying Selena, but that is actually how it's pronounced. A random couple decided just to dedicate, you know, a whole day to cracking one of the Zodiac Killer's codes, and this code actually ends up saying, I'll also put it on the screen as well, I like killing it. It's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than killing your rocks off with a girl. The best part is when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and those I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for afterlife. And then sadly, after, you know, this was cracked, within a month and a half later, on September 27th, there sadly was another murder done by the Zodiac Killer. Like I said, September 27th, in Napa, California, there was 2 innocent souls that one was taken and one survived. Their names are Celia Shepard, and she was 21, and then we have 20-year-old Brian Hartnell. We're having a picnic along another lake, I believe, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'll try to pronounce it for you guys, Lake Berassa. So they were having a picnic along there, where Celia was like, she was looking straight, and she was seeing something in her view. She saw like a guy that was hiding behind a tree, and she just like, I don't know why they didn't just like get up and leave. Nobody really talks about why didn't they just get up and like leave. Why didn't they leave? They should just like, when they saw the dude, they should have honestly like tried to contact somebody, or I would have been like, I'm out. But Celia they just stayed and continued their picnic. I don't know how you can just like be so calm and continue a picnic when you see a creepy killer dude hiding behind a tree, obviously just waiting to do something to you. But Celia did see the Zodiac Killer hiding behind a tree. Of course, she didn't know it was the Zodiac Killer. Nobody knows who the Zodiac Killer looks like, but that is what was in her view at the time. After hiding behind the tree for some time, he actually came out and approached Celia and Brian, and this is kind of his like description of what he had on him and what he looked like to the 2 of them. He was wearing an executioner style hood over his head to like, you know, completely like hide his identity, and he had a gun and a long knife on him, and Prick Cup wrote to tie up Celia and Brian, which he actually ended up tying them both up and ended up stabbing them repeatedly. Celia unfortunately ended up dying eventually. When she reached the hospital, she unfortunately ended up passing, but Brian actually ended up surviving, and he gave news reporters and police a clear description of what the Zodiac Killer looks like. So I will insert Brian's interview and kind of like description. He gives the same description I just gave you guys, but I'll kind of like insert the picture or video of Brian. I think he was in the hospital when he gave this interview, where he's kind of just telling his story.
Well, to the whole thing, like I mentioned before, at the beginning, I did think I was going to die. And so from that moment on, one has to have certain goals that you have to set. The first goal, of course, was to live. I suppose the second goal was to get untied. The next one was to get help. From getting help, getting to the hospital. You know, you have to have a successive set of goals. And if you can keep this going, and you can keep your mind active, whether you die or not, you're at least psychologically attuned, whether you're in shock or not. If you can keep arguing with yourself, praying, doing anything to keep your mind off of yourself, or at least just not lapsing back and just saying, well, it's no use.
After the murders of, those two, which of course Brian survived, so it's really just the murder of Celia and the attack of Brian. Of course, here we go again, the Zodiac Killer is doing his pattern of calling up the police and being like, hey, I did the killing, haha, come get me kind of thing. And of course, don't know how the police don't have any evidence at this point, but the police don't have any evidence. They couldn't track the call. They did track the call. They went to the booth where the killer made the call, but there was no DNA on the phone. I don't know how police crime stuff works like that, but that just like blows my mind. That's like, what do you mean you can't find any DNA? Just like, it might have been because it is like literally in the 60s and 70s. Back then they don't have all the technology we do today, but that just like really is crazy to me. But unfortunately, Zodiac Killer is still on his reign of killing people. So after he attacks Brian and Celia, he actually switches up the way he's attacking people. And I believe this is the last crime or attack that we are going to talk about the Zodiac Killer, because after this he kind of really doesn't do anything. And he kind of just makes threats after this and kind of vanishes. So we're going to talk about his next attack. On October 11th in San Francisco at an intersection, we have a poor innocent soul, Paul Stein, who was randomly shot in the back from his passenger. He was a taxi driver. His passenger randomly shot him in the back of the head, and he ended up unfortunately dying. And of course, the killer fled from the scene. A teenage girl actually happened to look out her window at the right time and saw the killing happen and was able to kind of give a description to the police and identify the Zodiac Killer. So she ends up calling the police right there and then and gives a description to the police of what she was able to see. Her description was a male between the height of 5'8", 5'9". Of course, he's still around the 200 pounds section of the weights. And she said he looked like he was between the ages of 25 to 30 years old. And now he had some like old, stocky, brownish red hair. I don't know what that means, but that is obviously what the girl described. He had a crew cut with glasses. This is part of the crime scene or crimes that people get really frustrated about, because this was kind of like the I do get frustrated over this too. This was literally the moment the police could have caught the Zodiac Killer, but the police ended up really messing up, and you guys are gonna hear about it right now. Police ended up, racing through the crime scene. They're going around with their little police cars or police motorcycles, whatever they were driving at the time, and they end up seeing a man who fits the description from the teenager perfectly. But tell me why this is the only thing they do. They just like ask him like, hey, like, did you see anybody like suspicious around here? Like, did you see anything? And he just goes, which I believe this is the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer goes, yeah, I actually saw a guy like go that way. Just points into like a random direction. And what did the police do? They literally believe the stranger and go in the direction that the Zodiac Killer told them to. It's like, you didn't even think about maybe bringing the guy in for a questioning, or at least getting custody of the dude who fits the description. So many people to this day are still very mad about the situation, because it's like the Zodiac Killer is still free. We don't even know if he's still alive, but even if he is, he's literally free and he's murdered so many people. So yeah, but anyways, let's continue. 3 days later, the police end up receiving a letter from the Zodiac Killer, and in the like little section where there is a return label address, of course the Zodiac Killer is obviously very smart and did not put his actual return label because he doesn't want to get caught. He put his little symbol like I showed you guys. I'll show again if you guys don't remember. I'm also going to help and try to show as much letters as I can find on the screen too, so you guys can read along with me. But yeah, in the little return symbol section, he just put his like symbol in the cross. The letter literally talks about how the two cops messed up and how they could have caught him. He literally confesses and says, hey, you guys like literally had me and y'all like messed up. So I'll read you what the letter says. 2 cops pulled a goof about 3 minutes after I left the cab. I was walking down the hill to the park when this cop pulled up, and one of them called me over and asked if I saw anyone acting suspicious or strange in the last 5 to 10 minutes. I said yes. There was this man running by waving a gun, and the cops pulled a rubber and went around the corner as I directed them. And then I disappeared into the park, a block and a half away, never to be seen again. So it's like, wow. he literally admits that that was him, but it just blows my mind that the cops could have caught the Zodiac Killer, but didn't. 2 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle, which is a newspaper, receives a letter from the killer, which of course he gives very detailed, you know, things that he did to the taxi driver, and actually gives the San Francisco Chronicle, like, legit gives them like a t-shirt of from Paul's body, like literally like gives them evidence to like the crime scene. The letter to read, so I'll insert the letter and I'll also read it for you guys again. The San Francisco police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly instead of holding road rages with their motorcycles, seeing who can make the most noise. The car drivers should have parked their cars and sat quietly, waiting for me to come out of cover. School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, just shoot out the front tire and then pick off kitties as they come bouncing out. So I'm going to insert a interview with one of the bus drivers who kind of like gives off like the feelings and emotions that now the bus drivers and kids are going through. So that'll be inserted right here.
We change them practically every day where we won't have the same pattern. And the police has been riding either ahead or behind and watching, keeping a close eye on everything.
Alright, as we fast forward a little bit, this is kind of getting to the end of the Zodiac Killer's case. April 20th, 1970, the police once again receive a letter from the Zodiac Killer. This time it said my name in blank and had a code attached to it, which was sadly never solved, so nobody ever was able to figure out, you know, his name and who he was. So of course, once again, he's going unidentified once again. Letters kept coming to the police station here and there, all the way up to 1971. They actually like stopped like completely, and then he gave one last letter on 1974. The letter is him just claiming that he's killed 37 people and that you guys won't be able to find them because I made them look like they're accidents, so you guys won't have any clue of what they look like, etc., etc. So it's kind of just like he's like, have fun because you're not gonna find them, peace out, I'm out. And then to this day the case has been a cold case. It's been reopened a couple of times, but nobody has ever been able to find out who the Zodiac Killer is. There has been people who have stepped forward and claimed they are the killer, but there is not enough evidence to back it up, and people aren't able to back up the crimes and murders or give the details that the Zodiac Killer was able to give. So I would insert here, you know, all of the sketches or theories, etc., that are targeted toward the Zodiac Killers. You guys see all the different sketches and everything. But yeah, that is the story of the Zodiac Killer. If you guys like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. And of course, I'll see you guys in my next video, like always.